Hey there, Hogstye Nation. The Redskins had to make a flurry of roster moves to replace yet another round of guys on injured reserve. We're going to talk about that, Trent's knee, the Redskins versus the Saints, so stick with us. It's the Hogstye.
By fans, for fans, the Hogstye. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is obviously not Sean Conti. We honestly don't know where he is, but that's fine. It's Alex Zeese here with you. With me, as always, we got Jamal. Jamal, how's it going over there in, 20 minutes away from me land?
Look, it's not bad. I told you I can't complain. But, the one good thing about this time of the year is that I'm on my final paper for the semester. My final individual paper. My final individual paper. So as soon as I'm done with that, the semester is smooth sailing. So I can't complain.
Nice. Nice. And Jamal's 20 minutes away. Steve by car is probably more like 20 hours away. Steve, how's it going down there in
at least
the Deep South?
Oh, it's, I'm surviving down here in the Deep South. I just found it interesting that you greeted Hogstye Nation. And I think if we're a nation, we've got to be like the Liechtenstein, of nations, maybe.
We're small. We could get
we're small but powerful.
We're very small.
We're small but powerful.
We take pride in it.
Like Switzerland.
No, I think we've graduated. We've graduated from Liechtenstein. We're up to like Belgium, maybe now.
Oh, hey, I take Belgium. They got the great French fries.
Yeah, there you go. See,
French fries and beer. You know me. I'm happy.
You and I are gonna throw down, though, Alex. Let me tell you something. If you keep knocking my boy Terrell Pryor on Twitter, we're gonna fight. Okay,
I was
we're
having
gonna
a
fight.
Fun there at your expense.
I guess I missed it today, huh?
You must have missed it.
Yeah,
because Alex just wants to cut the poor man, and without even giving him a chance.
Yeah, you know how I am, Jamal. I'm a move forward guy.
Yeah, well, look, sometimes
move forward into nothing.
Sometimes it has to happen. I'm not saying I'm for or against, but sometimes it has to happen. So,
well, the thing
take
was,
a stand.
Brian Mitchell wrote something on Twitter about why was Harris on the practice squad so long, and I said because Terrell Pryor makes $5 million. And then
my response was that's not the case. It's because Brian Quick took his job.
Yeah,
that's why he was on the practice squad.
Well, I
Brian
firmly
Quick
believe in the domino theory. If one of these guys had got hurt earlier, Harris would have come up sooner.
I mean,
and by the way, I was the guy who started the free Maurice Harris hashtag, so I like Maurice Harris.
I know you do. I know you're a Maurice Harris fan just as much as I am.
And I take full credit for him getting on the roster. I think my hashtag did the trick.
Credit.
Yes.
I think he gets a little credit for, practicing hard.
I think Bruce Allen saw
catches. Did you hear he made another one-handed catch at practice today?
I hear he does it all the time.
Yeah.
Is what you guys watched him in practice. Did you see any fantastic catches by Harris when you were at training camp?
I don't remember anything
none
like
that stood out none that stood out like the last two that I saw.
No,
on TV.
No, I mean, but he's a gamer. I really think he's one of these guys who you put him in an actual game, he probably performs more than he does at practice.
You know what's great in all seriousness from a football standpoint? What's great about him is that he knows how to play all the positions.
Mm-hmm.
Like the catch there against the Vikings. He was was
he the
not
wide?
in the slot. He was the split end.
Right.
Yeah, with the outer back, off the line.
Right.
Now, but he can play which is slightly different than just being the outer X guy. It's different than being the slot guy. He can play all up and down the wide receiver tree, if you will. And that's one of the things that's good about Maurice Harris, I think. And Jay has said that.
Yeah, and I agree with Jay, obviously, and you about that. We need more guys like that because, let's be honest, Crowder, just a slot guy. You really don't want to put him on the outside that much.
And Grant is lucky to be on the roster, as Jamal knows.
Right.
Oh, very funny. Very funny.
Pryor and Doxson, both X guys. You don't really see them going over the middle. You put them on the one side, and you expect them to have the good catch radius.
Well, let's be clear. I mean, an X receiver can go over the middle. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of what pattern is called. You know, we haven't seen Pryor run any patterns, for weeks now.
No,
so.
nothing like that.
No, well, we've
No.
seen him. We've seen him run some patterns, but he's just not a factor out there, so they don't throw him the ball.
He's
I don't
not.
know what it is,
Yeah.
man. So, and then when he throws it to him, he forgets that he has hands. He tries to catch
Yeah.
it with his helmet.
But his catch percentage is the same as it was in Cleveland. It's not like the man is falling off a cliff.
Nah.
That's been my whole point.
Nah, I'm just messing
He's
with
basically the same guy. I know you are. He's basically the same guy. Can we get off this topic? All my point is that you and I are going to fight.
But you
that's
also
all.
know I kind of just like goading you on a little bit. I mean, come on. You and I have done that to each other online for years.
Yeah, and on this show.
And on the show. Yeah. That's part of the fun.
It is.
So
It is.
let's get into the actual meat of our program, our agenda. The first thing we had on topic, Steve, you did a little bit of, Q&A with somebody to try and get
Yes.
some more info on Trent Williams' knee, because we had a little contention there, you and I, last week about should Trent be playing or not. So you went and actually asked somebody.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit on the last show. I can't remember if it was the game recap or last week's preview or what, but
I think it was the recap.
maybe it was. But anyway, your point was you thought Trent should just go on IR, and I said, I don't know.
Right.
I'm not a doctor.
Right. Well,
And
you
so
know me.
I
I'm more
went and-
concerned about long-term stuff all the time.
Yeah.
That's my
And so
reasoning.
I communicated electronically with Dr. David Chow, who is online as the Pro Football Doc, and he's been a team physician with various football teams, and he is most certainly a medical expert in the field
California
of football
guy, I
injuries.
think.
Yeah, he is, because what he did is he sent me a short article he wrote for the San Diego Union Tribune. This is dated October 25th. Title of the article is Skins Trent is trying to play through something he probably can't. Mm-hmm. And since that's the title of the article, you probably know where I'm going with this. But according to Dr. Chow, what is wrong with Trent Williams is that he needs reconstruction of the medial patellofemoral ligament, MPFL. And now that is not one of the normal ligaments that you hear about, ACL, MCL,
Right.
LCL. This is the ligament that is keeping the patella in place. And what the article says is when you need reconstruction of the MPFL and you continue to try and play football, it's, in his words, it's like continuing to drive a race car with the wheels out of alignment. He says Trent absolutely does need surgery here. The problem is, if the kneecap continues to shift out of place, at some point he is going to suffer permanent damage to the articular cartilage.
Which is my number one concern.
Yeah, and and so in his opinion, Trent's going to be out sooner rather than later. Now, the depressing part of this, other than what we just read, is that Trent told the media that the surgery he needs is a 5 to 6 month recovery. Well, Dr. Chow says this surgery could, quote, easily take 6 to 9 months to return to full form, meaning that if he waits too much longer for this, the beginning of next season could potentially be in doubt.
6 to 9 months, aka 9 months, because it's never
right.
6 months.
Right, and that's Dr. Chow's estimate, whereas Trent said 5 to 6. But I'm going to go with Dr. Chow rather than an optimistic football player.
I'm going to be cautious with a elite tackle's knee.
Yeah. And the very last thing out of this, I'm just going to read. He says, knowing what I do about the rigors of the NFL and orthopedic injuries, I don't see how this can continue much longer. So that is extremely negative. Kudos to Williams for trying, but I expect to see expect to see his season over sooner rather than later. So that is an actual expert opinion on Trent Williams' knee. For those of you who are interested, it is something more than just us babbling about what we think. This is about what an orthopedic surgeon says about Trent.
Now,
So
go ahead.
Go ahead, Jim. Are you guys kind of on my side a little bit more now, having heard that?
I don't even
Now that I see an actual doctor say it, yeah.
I don't even remember what my side was. I figured, but I did figure, like, if he was, I'm pretty sure what I did figure was if he felt that he could play through it, then go ahead. But at the same time, something like this, and I'm never one, like, me speaking from an athletic standpoint, like, even if I was hurt, like, I would try and go I would try and play, as much as I can and tolerate the pain. If it was too much, I'd sit out. But if I can play and I can tolerate and still play at a high level or a decent level and help my team win, that's what I'm gonna do. So I understand what Trent is trying to do, and on top of the fact that they're paying him a lot of money to do what he has to do. Those type of factors play, but at the same time, it's like, look, you have to at some point think about yourself. Like, is your health, is the game bigger than your health, especially your long term health. So, I mean, yeah, I think he should, if it's that important, or if it's that big of a deal, then yeah, he should probably say that.
I mean, I wouldn't advise Trent about what he thinks about his own health, because to me that's something that personal. That's personal to him. But from my perspective is if this is going to cause, if this definitely needs surgery and there's potential for increased damage and it puts next season at risk, then that's when I say, okay, it's probably time to call King's X on this thing. I think he was waiting for Inseki to get back before he decided anything. Now that Inseki's back, maybe it's time for Trent to hang it up for the year, not for a career.
Yeah, but I think another thing that I was thinking of too is that Trent may have a case in the fact that his recovery or his timetable may be somewhat it may be a little bit more accurate than a doctor, on the simple fact that the doctor is not, even though he has tons and tons of experience, he's not specifically working with Trent Williams. So he doesn't necessarily know for sure, but at the same time, he does. Trent Williams may be a little bit more accurate. It may not be just 5 to 6 months, maybe 5 to 7 or 5 to 8, but he's probably a little bit more accurate than the doctor is, even though the doctor may be describing the type of injury that he's playing through.
Yeah, I mean, but, I think sort of the general point is, even if you go on the Trent Williams scale, if he waits till after the season's over, you legitimately could be potentially putting the beginning of next season.
I mean, it definitely puts the whole
and future health, like his health period. So I agree.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what they decide to do. Obviously, the Redskins have their own doctors who will advise him. I don't know what people's faith level in that is.
Well, it's Dr. James Andrews.
Yeah, and Andrews is
faith in that.
Yeah, he's a good doctor. Don't get me wrong. He's kind of one of the best ACL doctors in the country, right? I mean,
he's the guy who pronounced RG3's knee healthy in the Seattle playoff game in 2012, so he can certainly do no wrong.
Oh, right. Maybe that's why I'm a little overly concerned about Trent's knee too. Just putting that out there.
Anyway, so
let's hope he doesn't, go and screw it up worse, because we've already got a lot of guys on IR. And let's talk about that, because we put 2 more big names on IR this week. Our starting running back, Fat Rob Kelly, and linebacker Will Compton, the backup to the starter, who, Compton, capable backup, but both of them now out for the year. So
yeah, I mean, gosh,
yeah, I don't hear nothing good about
how you guys feel about losing both of them.
The hits keep on coming,
right?
To replace those guys, the Redskins signed running back Byron Marshall from the Eagles practice squad, and signed Zach Vigil, who used to be with the Redskins.
He was with us in the
offseason. Yeah, he was off-season, preseason. And then they signed another defensive lineman to the active roster, Karan Reed. And then there were a few other. The churning of the practice squad continues.
Right. We
That's
can
probably
say
not
they
that
waived
interesting.
Brandon Banks to put Karan Reed, or Karan, however you pronounce it, Reed.
I think it's Karan Reed.
Karan,
is how
okay.
to pronounce it, yeah. But let's talk about Byron Marshall a little bit. And I don't think any of us are going to pretend that we've watched a ton of film on Byron Marshall.
Or maybe even more than just a few highlights.
Yeah, but we can nonetheless tell you a little bit about Byron Marshall, because he's probably going to end up playing a role in this team. Number one, and most importantly, I think, and I want to get you guys' opinion on this, he's 5'9", 200 pounds. Mm-hmm. Now, what does that sound like to you?
Thompson, Chris?
Yeah. And if you want to do some stats on him, He played for the University of Oregon, 2012 to 2015. Averaged 6.1 yards per carry while he was at Oregon.
Right.
Racked up 1,877 yards. But the key here is he also had almost 1,300 yards receiving.
Right.
And so he very much is sort of this. He appears to be at least sort of a scat back type. Receiving type, fits in well with what Jay Gruden seems to like.
He's from that Chip Kelly
with running
system,
backs.
which, also kind of fits that scat back role really well.
Yeah. In terms of his pro career, he's only played in 3 active games with the
year.
Eagles. Yeah, 2016. He's got all of 64 yards rushing. So not much. I mean, he spent more time in the practice squad. So, he's going to be our new running back. I think it's very certain that Samaje Perine is going to get the bulk of the carries.
Right.
But certainly this, Marshall character is going to fill in as necessary because you'd think we'd probably have 3 running backs up.
Yeah.
On the active roster, on game day roster.
Maybe so, but we've seen this before with Gruden. He'll definitely go back and forth between Perine and Thompson. We saw that in the past, even when we had Mac Brown.
Yeah.
Brown didn't get a ton of carries.
Nope.
And we kind of saw it as well when Kelly came back and was, kind of healthy. Perine maybe got 1 carry a game a lot of times.
Yeah. And by the way, go ahead, Jamal.
I was going to say that was basically really on Perine's own doing.
True.
But you still all right. I was just going to say that I'm not even personally at this point of the season. I'm not really, and I'm not going to say, now that I think about it, I'm not going to say that they didn't attempt to try and sign a veteran, but that's what I would have tried to do because you're not really gaining anything signing an unproved player at a position of need. Signing a running back who we don't really know of. I'm sure the coaches, they know something about him. That's why they signed him. But at the same time, he's not a proven player, and you don't really know what you have in him, and you probably don't even expect to use him. With the people that you have in place, you probably don't expect to use him that much. If you were to get a veteran in here who can take the role of Rob Kelly, who can get about 10 carries, 11 carries a game, that's something better than getting a Byron Marshall and just having them sit on the sideline and maybe get 1 or 2 carries and return punts. It's probably better.
Sorry, Steve, I think you and I were talking over there with a little bit of a lag issue. But what I was going to say was the one thing that I found was interesting was Gruden during a press conference mentioned how they were really looking at practice squads right away to make this move. And he had kind of gone through a list and had like a list of 5 guys he might want to sign from other practice squads, and they never really brought up free agents.
Well, the problem, I hear you, Jamal, about the free agent. It sounds really good, but the problem is I don't know who on earth you're going to find in Week 11 that can suit up and get off his couch and suit up and start an NFL football game or even contribute in an NFL football game this late in the season. Whereas you have a guy like Byron Marshall who's been practicing all year, who Jay Gruden specifically said, Randy Jordan has been, was watched film on, etc. I just don't know what veteran you're going to find.
D'Angelo Williams. That's the
it sounds like a
first
recipe
person that came to my
for
head. He immediately said before the season started that he'll make himself available. And it's only 4 teams that he's not playing for this year. So, or that he would never play for.
I'm going to make my team. I'll make myself available too. That doesn't mean I should be playing.
But see, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I said I don't know if they contacted him or if he's not even, or I don't know the ins and outs of that. That's what I'm saying. That's one person I would directly look at and see if he's in shape. I would go for him immediately.
It's not a terrible idea. The other question is, of course, how much is he really looking for at this point?
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you're signed in Week 11, you're going to get a min salary contract, and that's it. There's no, and we're in a salary cap position where we could afford to sign a player anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think that's it. To me, it's just, D'Angelo Williams is a name. I don't know if he can run anymore.
How old is
I do know about
33, something like that.
I don't know.
No, I'm just ballparking it.
He's got a lot of mileage on him. I know that much.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is one of these things, folks, where you just have to trust the coaches know what they're doing. because I mean, look, we can't give you too much insight into Byron Marshall, nor can we give you too much insight into whether D'Angelo Williams can still play or not. And so this is a situation where we need to trust that the coaches know what they're doing, and they have watched film on these guys, and they think that this guy is the best of the bunch that they can find at this particular moment in the season. Hopefully the man can play.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully. I don't have much against him, and I don't even know him, so it's not for me. And I know you're not talking about me, but it's not. I don't have a problem with him, but I'm just like, look, at this point in the season, go with a vet. Like that's just how I feel. So it is what it is. If he balls, good for him.
Real quick, and then we'll move on to the other stuff we have on the schedule. Zach Vigil coming back from preseason. I don't remember a whole lot about him, but I do remember when I was at training camp, he was one of those guys who, in like drills and things like that, he always seemed to be giving a high effort. So take that for a grain of salt, but maybe that's kind of why he's the name they picked out of their hat and called up.
Well, I mean, he knows the system.
Sure.
He's been here. He knows the players. He knows the coaches, all that stuff. And instantly, somebody out there in social media land was asking us why the Redskins didn't just sign Nico Marley.
No.
Look,
no.
Okay, I know we all
agree.
loved Nico, but seriously.
Nico was a great story, and I was rooting for him, but, I mean, come on, guys. I mean, the man is 5'8", 200 pounds, okay?
If we needed a safety, an in-the-box only safety, maybe.
Except he's not fast, he's slow.
I know.
So, I mean, I just don't know what... It's the Nico Marley dream is dead. That's all I can say.
I want to see Nico Marley play for my Washington Valor. That's where I want to see him.
I want to see him maybe play guitar.
That's actually not bad, Alex. Washington Valor.
Yeah.
Incidentally, Zach Vigil, for those of you who have forgotten, is 6'2", 240. Mm-hmm. So I mean, he's an actual size.
Don't forget the amazing hair. If you look at his photos from training camp,
I don't remember his amazing hair.
Oh, he's got he's got the crazy big, thick, long locks thing going on.
Zach Vigil has amazing hair.
Yes, he does.
That's the biggest thing we can tell you.
Well,
so anyway, those are.
I focus on weird things. What can I say?
So point is we've droned on and on about this.
Too long.
To summarize, Rob Kelly, Will Compton, done for the year. Byron Marshall, enter Zach Vigil, and they also signed a defensive lineman who nobody knows much about, Karan Reed. So there you go. Roster churning.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on because we got to start talking about, some of the other stuff we have on the docket. Steve, you did the mailbag game again on Twitter. How did it go this week, and were there any good questions?
Yeah, we got a pretty good question this week, actually. This is from Patrick Fangmeyer, at P. Fangmeyer. He says, does the injury issue and strength of schedule play into the eval of Jay's grade as a coach this season, specifically with regard to a decision to retain or fire by the front office? Will missing the playoffs this year be as bad considering the circumstances? So, Jamal and Alex, what do you think about Patrick's question?
Well, it's a funny and interesting question because I got in an argument with some other guy on another website randomly about this. One of these classic next man up type mentality people. And my thinking is when it comes to the big picture stuff, you have to take this stuff into account. You have to take into account you played arguably one of the most ridiculous schedules in the first 9 games that I've ever seen. You basically just, it's like, oh, this is going to be a playoff team. Oh, they're turning out to be a playoff team. Oh, they're turning out to be, just over and over and over again. And you came out okay, all things considered. And then, you have to take into account the fact that 6 starters are on IR now. That's like 20-something% of your starting roster.
And the rest of them are hurt.
Yeah. And a lot of other guys are hurt and probably could be on IR.
Yeah.
Like Trent. Trent probably should be on IR. If this team had, a healthier backup tackle, he would be.
If his name wasn't Trent Williams, he probably would be on IR. He's just a very tough individual.
Yeah.
Jamal, what insight do you have as to Patrick's question?
I really don't know. I mean, personally, I'll go with Alex, honestly, because at the same time, it's a lot of people we're going through a lot. You already talked about Trent Williams going through injuries. Zach Zach Brown was in a walking boot, I think, today after practice.
Yeah.
Because of Achilles, I think. So, or something like that. But from what actually,
There was some question about whether he was actually wearing a boot or not. It was apparently something of a
yeah,
controversy,
and
but
I was
yes.
gonna say, from what I understand, because I wasn't even paying attention to like the big injuries this week. Like it just
Mm-hmm.
happened so much, I wasn't really paying attention to it. But they're saying it's overblown. So maybe the Zach Brown thing is not a problem, but at the same time, my point was like basically I agree with what Alex was saying. It's just so many the fact that you're dealing with people who are playing injured who should be on IR. Zach Brown's dealing with an injury. Will Compton just went on injured reserve. D Hall came back for one game, played okay, then
Arthur Jones lasted one
yeah,
half
Yeah.
of a
then
game.
came back against the Vikings and got hurt. So it's like now we're down to Monte and DJ and DeShazier, who mysteriously actually lost his job. I don't know what the hell happened to him. Maybe Monte is just that much better than him that
I
they
think
didn't have
I
to.
think
He's more
it's
athletic.
that
I
more.
think he's more athletic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Um,
I'm just saying like it's a lot going on. So
I can shed a little bit of light on Patrick's question here, because what he's really asking is Jay going to get fired given the
oh hell no,
circumstances of the
I can
schedule
answer
and
that.
No.
no, he's not getting fired. And part of the reason is number one, he just signed an extension
Mm-hmm.
before this season happened. And for those of you who aren't aware, you can't just toss a coach's contract into the trash can. You have to pay those out.
They're
And so it's a
fully
lot of money.
guaranteed.
Yeah, it's like, yes, it's not a pretend contract like a player contract. It's a real contract. And so, from a business standpoint, Dan Snyder isn't just going to, throw Jay Gruden on the trash heap and owe him all that money, number one. And number two, I think from our perspective, as constant observers of the team, I think it would have taken a real disaster season to have Jay on the hot seat, contract aside. And the season,
Right.
I mean, it's a mediocre season, but it's not a disaster.
Well,
And so from that respect, I think Jay is safe for sure. I don't think he's even on a hot seat for next year.
and let me and this it's not 100% relevant, but it's just somewhat shed light on like how good a team can be and how much injuries affect a team. So last year, that same Minnesota Vikings team that we faced a week ago started off nice. What, they were like 6-0, I believe, or something like that, 5-0.
Yeah, they had a
Something
good
like that, yeah.
first run, right?
Yeah, and they were actually starting to get hurt on their run. They were getting hurt on their run. And after those injuries took them out, I think Sam Bradford, he started in the beginning of the season. But those injuries started taking them out. Sam Bradford, I think, played the whole season, but he started losing his offensive line around him. They were down to like second and third string offensive linemen. Defensive players started getting hurt. We didn't even play Everson Griffin. No, we played Everson Griffin, but we missed like three of their defensive linemen and linebackers when we played them. I don't know what happened to their secondary completely, but my point is they went on it was an amazing losing streak after they went up 5-0, started 5-0, 6-0. And I think they finished 7-9 or maybe 6-10, I can't remember. Or 8-8, I can't remember. But point is, you start off that well and you finish that poorly. It goes to show how much injuries plays a factor, especially if it's to your important players. So, like I said, it may not be 100% relevant, but at the same time, there is some resemblance to, good teams out here. Look what the Vikings are doing this year with basically a revamped offensive line and a healthy defense.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer to the question is yes, the injury issue matters. Yes, the strength of schedule matters. But maybe more importantly, the contract Jay has matters quite a bit.
The contract matters the only thing that I think can trump a contract situation like this, when a coach loses a locker room. If you lose,
and that hasn't even remotely happened. They love Jay.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen here. But I'm thinking more, look at what's going on in New York with McAdoo. Like, everyone knows he's going to be out now because he has completely lost the trust of the locker room. And to me, that in every sport, if you lose your players as a coach, you're done. You can't get it back. It's not possible.
There's there's unique issues in
Jay still has
DC.
the players, he has, a good chance of keeping the team.
there's unique issues in DC because we have Dan Snyder, who has been known to lose his patience a time or two with coaches.
That
But
is true.
You know, I mean, he tossed, North Turner out on his head. He tossed Marty Schottenheimer out. Mike Shanahan firing was handled clumsily. But I just, from everything we see from our position, this just isn't the spot that Jay's in now. So anyway, that's Patrick's question.
Yep.
So thanks very much. We'll maybe do another mailbag.
Yeah,
another show.
I'm liking the
maybe not.
mailbags. As long as we can get questions, I'm for doing the mailbag.
Oh, we get tons of questions, Alex. Don't do that.
Yeah, well, hey, no, listen.
I had to sort through like 50. I had to sort through 50
A lot
questions.
of them, eventually, the mailbag loses steam. It just happened.
We had 1,000 questions today. We had to choose from just one.
All right. Well,
I spent like 3 hours going through the
Exactly.
mailbag questions today. I just want
before the show, we were talking about the game a little bit this week, and I think we all agreed we're not actually looking forward to doing this preview because the Saints look
just why we've been
ridiculously
procrastinating.
good. But let's get into that because we're already about a half hour into the show, so we need to talk about it a little. Guys, what the heck are we going to do to stop the Saints? They put up about 1 billion points against Buffalo. I don't remember. They beat Buffalo so bad Tyrod Taylor lost his job. That's how bad they beat him.
I mean, here's the thing about the Saints offense. They don't really have any weaknesses.
No.
That's not to say they're perfect. That's not to say, all 11 starters belong in the Hall of Fame, but they run the ball well. And
perfect run offense, which was the best.
But even the Patriots didn't have what the Saints had. The Saints have the Saints used to be Drew Brees and a bunch of other guys,
right?
And now they have
probably
the best. They probably have the best running back tandem in the league with Ingram and Kamara. Mm-hmm. Almost a Mr. Inside, Mr. Outside type of guy because Ingram he can pound it inside. Kamara can do that too, but Kamara's got the speed to bounce it outside. They do it repeatedly. They run a lot.
Yep.
And so really this is a case of a Hall of Fame quarterback who's supporting a run game. And let's just run over some numbers real fast. They're third in points in the league. They're second in total yards, second in yards per game, first in yards per play, fifth in passing yards, third in rushing yards. Average time of possession, third in the NFL. Sacks surrendered, 8 on the season, as in 8. First, best
less than
in the
one
NFL.
A game.
Yeah. Their top wide receiver, and Jamal knows more about these guys than I do, so we'll let him talk. But Michael Thomas, their number one target, 8th in yards, 6th in targets, 4th in receptions. Ingram, 672 yards on the season, 4.7 yards per attempt. I mean, they have a ton of weapons. There's no getting around it.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the thing is with this offense, and it's shocking when I look at it because this isn't really a defense, this isn't a Saints team that's, even when they're good, they're not this good. And it's rare that you see this. This is the third time literally in the Sean Payton and Drew Brees era in which they're actually top 10 in both offense and defense. But this is also the very first time in the Payton and Brees era in which there are top 5. Actually, they're third. They're third in rushing offense. So they've never been. When they had a top 10 defense and offense, they've never had a top 10 rushing offense, which states how good they are and how ready they are for the postseason, because that's what you're going to need to do when you make it to the postseason. But specifically in terms of this game, you're dealing with a few playmakers. I give you that much. Dealing with a few playmakers, but you're dealing with an ultimate distributor in Drew Brees, who's over 70% completions. Statistically, his touchdowns to interceptions is similar to Kirk Cousins. Better passer rating, only been sacked eight times. But the ultimate distributor in Drew Brees, elite accuracy, clearly. But you got playmakers on the outside, only a couple of them, but they're very dangerous. And Alvin Kamara, Brandon Coleman is okay, but the ultimate guy is Michael Thomas. That's the guy that you really have to worry about. He's a rising star in the NFL.
And you mentioned this, but I think it needs mentioning again. Drew Brees, 9 games in, 71% completion rating.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Of course, he's one of the most accurate passers in NFL history.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Jamal, I want to get back to what you said, though. Because you said this in your post. I believe that was you put up on the site. Wednesday afternoon. Breeze and Cousins have similar numbers. My response to you was, Breeze has a little bit more in net and blah, blah, blah. But the point is they're similar. Are you comparing Cousins and Breeze in terms of talent and effectiveness, or are you just pointing out that their numbers are similar? What is your point really with that comparison?
Oh, it was strictly statistical. Because
Okay.
Breeze is not necessarily like when you look at Breeze at any point of the season, whether it be the first quarter, whether it be the second quarter, third quarter, the fourth quarter of the season, his numbers jump out. So when I looked at his numbers, and I had the Redskins stats up on Pro Football Reference. So when I looked at his numbers and how he was doing this season, I was like, it's like, damn. Him and Kirk is literally almost identical. 65% completion is very good in the NFL. So a 65 is good. 71 clearly is elite. But 65 and 71, I just said they were similar. But Kirk Cousins has the 14 touchdowns and 5 picks. Drew Brees has the 13 touchdowns and 4 picks. Higher completion percentage means a higher quarterback rating. And he's only been sacked 8 times as opposed to Kirk Cousins, I think 23 times. So it was strictly statistical because I wasn't saying that they were, I weren't saying that they was they was necessarily pretty they was good in terms of in the same range or as a player, but it was just weird, and I had to put it in the paper to see that they were actually that similar this point in the season.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, fair enough. And so, I think we would be doing the audience a disservice if we didn't give at least some insights into how the Redskins defense can stop these guys. I mean, it's a very tall order, and it's a pick your poison kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Redskins are better than they were last year at stopping the run. That doesn't mean they're good at it necessarily. It just means they're better than awful. So, and that which is in and of itself progress.
Sure.
So that's good. Most of the Redskins' defensive numbers have kind of settled into being mediocre, numbers in terms of rankings amongst the NFL. So how can you stop the Drew Brees and Pierre Thomas led, Michael Thomas led
Pierre Thomas,
Saints?
you're going back a little with the Saints there.
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that. I stumbled over that one. Number one, the secondary has to have a much better day than they did against the Vikings. You can't have Josh Norman and Rashad Breeland lay an egg like both of them did, in my opinion, last week. That's got to be solid. I don't think you're going to get a ton of pressure on Breeze. Breeze is the type of guy who scrambles, but he doesn't scramble to run. He scrambles to create time and space.
Yeah.
And so keep him contained in the pocket. Don't let him climb the ladder in the pocket. Get pressure straight up the middle if you can, even if you don't sack him, and hurry and rush his throws. That will affect his completion percentage. The bottom line is the Redskins are going to have to play a perfect game and probably get a little lucky. But That's what I'd have to say about how you stop them.
The one thing I'll say, I agree with you. I think you're going to have to play lights out perfect. But one thing that I kind of watched, and it's weird to see this still with the Saints. Drew Brees coming the line with the offensive line being 8 guys, basically, a lot of 3 tight end sets or 2 tight end sets for a change. And then that's how they're running the ball, is a lot of that, jumbo power kind of stuff. If you see it, you just got to kind of sell out against the run, I think. That's the only way you can slow those running backs they have down. I don't know of anything else you could do, especially now that Compton's out. And for all the things people complain about with Will Compton, stopping the run was the one thing he was pretty good at. So, I don't know if Spate will be, he's faster, so maybe that'll be his edge. I don't really know, though, how we're going to do against the running game.
Probably not well.
Yeah.
Well, and I swear, I really legit think I've said this like 5 weeks in a row now, but I really do not know what this defensive line is going to look like. I said this about the offensive line. I was like, I don't know what the offensive line is going to look like, so I don't know what we can do. However, I feel like this with the defensive line, Matt Ioannidis is allegedly coming back. We don't know for sure. There's nothing.
He's got a big club hand right now.
Yeah,
He's coming back with the club.
There's nothing set in stone right now. Like, he just started getting back to practice. I believe you have Ziggy Hood, Terrell, and Stacy, who are all healthy, but they aren't really doing much. But at the same time, then you also have motivated pass rushers. They played their worst game last week, I believe, along with the secondary. When you don't get sacks, a team that's predicated on, rushing the quarterback, pressuring the quarterback, you are going to be somewhat motivated. I don't know what that motivation will turn into. There is no say that the motivation will turn into 30 sacks on Drew Brees. Obviously, exaggeration. But, the whole point is the front seven is going to have to play much better. The secondary had their issues. We know that. But the front seven is going to play much better. And it goes to what Steve said. If you're able to get Drew Brees off his mark, if you're able to flush him out the pocket, you do stand a chance in terms of him as a passer, because he is more comfortable, even though he's only 6 feet. He's more comfortable in the pocket than he is outside of it. And if you have to get him off his mark, it disrupts the timing of the play, and it disrupts the timing with him and his receivers. And it bodes well for your defense. But at the same time, if you're not able to stop the run, then that says a lot for you as well, because he's going to have a field day.
I didn't realize this, but I saw one of those Twitter moments today that one of the analysts sent out. They apparently ran the ball 24 times in a row against Buffalo last week. 24
what is this, the 80s?
Running plays in a row. I mean, I love it, first of all, but I mean, that's just humiliating. I mean, if you let a team do that to you,
right?
My gosh, that means you're getting demolished, which they did.
And I also think there is ways to stop. Like, there is no true deep threat except for Ted Ginn, by the way. And it's not going to be too difficult to keep. Well, take that back, because Ted Ginn is not playing with Cam Newton. So I would say that
they don't have
Drew Brees would be a little bit more accurate than Cam. But I would say, like, it would be easier for us to to load the box, or at least have 7 in it, or 8. What, safety creeping up to the line of scrimmage, i.e. DJ Swearinger, and have Monte roam deep. So I mean, there isn't a legitimate deep threat in which they can just burn you. But if you want to stop the run, you can. You do have some ways to stop it, and load the box is one of them.
Well, and along those lines, I think we have corners. I think this corner receiver matchup is one of the better ones.
That's exactly
because Michael Thomas, he's not a burner and he's not humongous. He's the type of guy that Josh Norman really ought to be able to travel with and do fairly well on, because he's not one of these guys that's going to run past him, Odell Beckham style. So, again, they're going to have to play really well, but I think Jamal probably hit it. You sell out to stop the run. Have the safety, one of the safeties creep up, whether it's, DJ or Monte, and then just hope and pray that Bashaud Breeland and Josh Norman can play without a lot of help and keep Michael Thomas in check. That's the game plan. Whether or not it works,
I mean, I trust these guys. I trust Norman and Breeland. We talked about it in the post game.
Absolutely.
Like they're allowed to have bad games. The timing of the bad game was terrible. However, the matchup does bode well for these guys in terms of the physicality. These type of cornerbacks that we have, they play better against bigger receivers. I do not know why they got worked by Thielen and Diggs so as bad as they did, but they typically work well against bigger receivers, not the smaller ones and shiftier ones. So we'll see how it goes. I trust them against these guys.
Yeah.
Well, guys, unless you have anything else to add about the whole Saints offense side of this versus our defense, we should probably move to Kirk and the gang going against the Saints defense. This defense, I would actually say the Saints defense reminds me a lot of ours. They're not elite, but they're a lot better than what the Saints have historically been, which was a turnstile defense.
It was not just a turnstile. It was one of the worst defenses in the history of football.
Right, so were we for a long time.
Yes.
I mean, and that's kind of...
But the Saints were probably worse, and that's saying a lot.
Yes, that's true. I would like to say, thank God we never once hired Rob Ryan. That's all.
I think they were the only team to get a top 10 statistically good defense out of him. And it's just never, ever happened ever again in the history of coaching.
Yeah. Look, here's the thing about the Saints defense. They're a lot worse against the run than they are the pass, okay? They are 29th in the NFL rushing yards per attempt.
Wow. I didn't pick that up
running back.
watching
Well,
them.
this is why you guys listen to the Hog Side, because we tell you these kind of things. Opponents are rushing at a clip of 4.7 yards per attempt against them. They haven't rushed a lot, primarily because the Saints have been so far up in a lot of these games that it's become a big passing game. But they're vulnerable against the rush. Now, of course, the problem with that is that the weakness of the Redskins' offense is the running game.
Right.
And so whether, it's not exactly meeting strength on strength, it's more like weakness on weakness. They're much better against the pass.
Where are they rank-wise there?
6th in passing yards, 8th in passing yards per attempt.
Ooh.
And they've had a lot of passes against them. They've had 297 pass attempts, 59.9% completion percentage by opposing quarterbacks, quarterback rating of 78, average quarterback rating of opposing quarterbacks. And so they're a lot better against the pass than they are the run. I'm afraid that we don't really have the running backs to be able to take advantage of that. That's the problem.
And I mean,
So it's a day, look, Samaje Perine, it's your time to shine this week. This is it.
I agree, and I think that's a fair assessment. And personally, I think I don't know if I said it on the show, but I do think that Samaje Perine he's gotten a little bit better over the last couple of weeks. Now it's only been one carry for him against Seattle, but when I saw that carry, it carried over against the Vikings. It was very similar. So I mean, I do think that Samaje is getting a little bit better, or what I should say, he's providing a little bit more consistency, in terms of running the football and how he runs the football. So it does bode well for this offense because he will be at the primary carries, and that's what you're going to need against this defense. You're going to need to be able to run the ball. A lot of teams don't really run it; they're third in attempts, which means don't nobody really run the ball against the. Well, I'm trying to say that
they are third. They have the third least rushing attempts against them. My statement was that's probably because they have been so far ahead of a lot of these teams that they've had to pass.
Yeah, and
that was what I was trying to say.
and that's why I was saying, like, they don't really. A lot of people don't really run against them, which makes them 16th in rushing yards. But in reality, when you're in the game and you're able to run the ball against them, they're giving up a lot of yards. So the point for us and for the Redskins is the fact that you're going to have to run the ball and you're going to have to remain consistent, and also keep yourself in it by running the ball, because if you get out of pocket and you start dropping back, they are 10th in sacks. They are able to get to you at a high rate, and they're also 10th in sacks per game and pressure per drop back, something like that. So they know how to get to the quarterback, and if you drop back too much, you're helping them out.
I feel like drop back a lot, you also have to just play a game of keep away from Marshawn Lattimore. He's been pretty impressive his rookie year. So,
Well, yeah, and if you pass too much, then you're running up against, allowing the Saints offense to take control of the game because you're giving them too much time, and you have to keep, they're third in time of possession because they run so well.
Right.
I think what we're going to see, if we could play crystal ball here with this, we've seen the past maybe 4 weeks, Jay, in the early going parts of the game, Jay is trying to establish the run. He does it very early in the game, and that normally doesn't work out, and for all of Samaje's great carries last week, he still only had 35 yards rushing. It hasn't worked out, but he's been trying to do it, and that's what we criticized Jay for last year, for not doing it. So he's trying, it just isn't working. I think this is the week where he's really going to have to stick with it, no matter how bad it is in the beginning, until it starts to work, because I really think that's probably the only way we win this game, is to have a solid running game, to poke at the Saints' weaknesses and keep the ball out of the Saints' offense hands.
Yeah, and I do think the one thing that's going to be important with the running game being a factor is the fact that we say, like, they did a good job taking shots last week, but that's not good enough. You're going to have to take shots, and you're going to have to connect on them. So it's going to be important for them to take those shots, but also connect on them when they do it. So if you're throwing to Dodson, you're throwing to Harris, or whoever. Like it's imperative that you do not miss these deep shots and say, oh, if we had this, this gives so many people opportunity to blame Kirk for these these mishaps that he has. That is on him, those overthrows and things like that, bad throws. So it's gonna be on him when they do take those shots that they connect on them. And clearly the receiver for catching it because we had a lot of drops last week too. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. All right, guys. Unless there's anything else, why don't we get into game predictions? You guys got any final thoughts before we do that?
nope.
Oh, yeah, I did have a final thought. The one thing that the Saints don't do well is special teams.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they are 30th in
really?
punt return, 30th in punt returns, 28th in kickoff returns, 28th in kick return defense, and 27th in punt return defense. Now, the Redskins are one of the worst teams in football in punt returns, again, so this is matching weakness on weakness. But if there's ever a week for one of our punt returners
To actually do
to
something?
bust out,
Yeah.
it would be this week. So I just point that, we don't need to spend too much time on that, I just point that out. So there you
All
go.
right. Good to know. All right. Well, if that's that, why don't we get into predictions? I can go first if neither of you have an urgent one you want to put out there.
Go ahead, man.
Okay. Guys, maybe I'm just feeling down from last week when, we got embarrassed here in D.C. I don't see this one going our way. And I don't see it even being one that stays very close. I think the Saints are going to win this one by probably 14 points, somewhere in that range. 2 touchdowns, 2 scores. Maybe a little less than that. So let's say 31-24 Saints.
You said 31-24?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll go.
Go ahead.
So
Go ahead, Jamal. Yeah,
I'm gonna go with the Skins. I think the reason why I'm going with the Skins is, you know what? I think it's more so not necessarily how good the Saints are. They're on a 7-game win streak, and it's not necessarily, how bad things are seemingly going for the Redskins. They're not really going too bad. They've been competitive in literally every game up until a certain point. And what I mean by a certain point is the Philadelphia game, the second game, where it just got out of hand late. They've virtually been in every game. So when you examine these type of games and you know that you're going against a Saints team in which they are pretty good, but you're just as good. I mean, not statistically, but you will compete against these guys. It's going to come down to a few plays. And I think that those few plays will be won by the Redskins because of the fact that quite frankly, I'm not gonna lie to you. Even though I do respect their team because of Drew Brees, I still just do not respect their defense. Maybe I have to see it up close and personal. Who knows? But I just don't respect their
we'll
defense.
see.
And with that being said, it will be a close game. It's definitely not going to be a blowout for us. But I do think we win probably 27-23. We still won on the road like we did against the Seahawks. And I'm not thinking about the Seahawks like we were basically an even team with them. But I think we legit still this one. And then make a few more plays than the Saints. So.
Well, I hope you're right, Jamal. I don't share your optimism, but I've been wrong in a bunch of these games this year, so you never know. I mean, look, 6 out of the last 7 games by the Saints, the opponent has scored 17 points or less. They just don't give up a lot of points. The only teams that have put up a lot of points on them, the Vikings, the Patriots, and the Lions, all of which have offenses more explosive than ours. This isn't to say the Saints are a perfect team. It's not to say that the Saints can't be beaten. It's just a tall order given our injuries. We had 18 players on the injury report for Wednesday. They had 4, and one of those 4 just had a day off. Mm-hmm. They're healthy. We're in no way healthy. They're at home. They have an explosive offense, with Breeze, coupled with a tremendous running game. It's going to be tough. I don't think this is going to go well. I think the Redskins will show heart. I don't think it's going to be a total blowout. So I think it's going to be something along the lines of 32-24 Saints.
Okay.
I mean, that's yeah. It sounds about right for the rest of the fan base.
Yeah, I think the fan base is pretty pessimistic. And, I want to thank the pessimistic fans for actually joining us, because I'm sure the people who listen to us are among that group.
But if you think about it though, is it really? Because every fan base, like when you think about a game, it's like everybody thinks that you have some shot to win. It's either that or
Even the Browns fans. Yeah.
yeah, it's either that or they have no shot to win. Like it's never no middle ground. Like it will be a few deciding factors in the game that will flip it either way. There's never no this is an even matchup. It's typically we're gonna lose or damn it, we're gonna win. We have a chance. So I mean, I don't know if it's really optimistic or pessimistic if someone feels a particular way about that particular week.
I mean, definition, yes.
I mean, look, these are two. I mean, these are all NFL football teams,
Right.
and it is certainly must. It's just not, Alabama playing Southeast Louisiana State.
Right.
Here.
That's true.
I mean, anything
That's my
can happen
angle,
in these
Steve.
games, and frequently it does. See, we got to be positive about it.
All right,
So
well,
we'll
let's
see.
be positive.
I hope you're right.
So I guess that
I
is
like that. Let's
optimistic
end
by
this thing on a
definition, like you
positive
said.
note.
So
Yeah.
We it's not like we have no chance. Every team has a shot any given Sunday. Not every given. Any given Sunday.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank people for joining us on this any given night that they're listening to our podcast
Redskins
or
rushing for
day.
It was a little bit of a mess today, but that's okay.
All right. Thanks for joining us, guys. Don't forget to keep tracking with us on whatever social media platform you're using to track us, but it's probably Twitter, because we're not on MySpace, and I'm terrible about updating Facebook, and no one here
And
really
Instagram.
wants to
You're
do
terrible about
so
Instagram,
it's probably
too.
Twitter.
I'm trying, man. I haven't been on Instagram in a while. You just reminded me I need to get back on it. So I'm going to try.
I reminded myself I need to make sure I post things on Facebook too.
Maybe we can just hand Instagram over to Jamal and make him do it
Okay.
for us. How about
I'm
that?
trying.
All right. Lots of food pics, Jamal. Lots of food pics. All right. I just want to remind people, we also had a new episode of It's Just Business come out that Steve did. I was not on the episode, finally, for a change.
Finally got rid of Alex, thank God.
I hope you
got
guys
Rich
check
back.
that out, too. We will be back with the recap episode, and I hope you guys otherwise enjoy your rest of the week and weekend. Later.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
All right.